today we're going to be replacing this outlet. It's in a rental property, tenants moved out, just going through and fixing up all the damage. Now normally you're going to have a set of wire strippers. I almost always have strippers and I don't have a needle nose. And today I happen to have bought a needle nose set that I had in my truck and I don't have strippers. But because I'm replacing an outlet, my wires should be stripped and I shouldn't have to strip, and I can bend it with this. So I think we can make it work, but normally I'll use a set of wire strippers. So first thing you're gonna do is make sure your power is off at your breaker, and then you're gonna confirm that your power is off, which I've already done, but we're just doing that one more time. You always wanna check and double check. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take this existing outlet off. So you have two little screws right here. They're probably gonna be a flathead unless they've been changed. Before I start touching around, I like to test one more time just to make sure I did a good test. So every outlet's gonna be a little bit different. Some outlets have two sets of wires. Well, this is gonna be basic wiring. If you have a specialty outlet, maybe where it's controlled separately, like half of it's for a switch, half of it's just a normal plug with always hot power on, or you have, something really crazy. This is just a basic outlet. You have two options usually when you open up an outlet in your wall. You either have one set of wires, meaning you have a black, a white, and a ground, or you have two sets of wires where you have two blacks, two whites, and two grounds. And one means it's at the end of a line of power, and then two means it's bringing power into the outlet, but then you're also carrying power on to the next outlet in your line of outlets. So this one, it has two blacks, two whites. So black's your hot, white's your neutral, and then the grounds are connected together right here in this green nut, and only one's coming to the outlet. So I have power coming in and I have power going out. Because this is a basic outlet, it doesn't really matter so much which one's the power coming in and which one's the power coming out. If you had a GFI outlet, you would want to diagnose which one's the power coming in, which one's the power going out. So this type of outlet is a push in outlet. So in the back, so sometimes you'll see an outlet where on this screw, the wire's wrapped around the screw and then the screw's tightened down, holding the wire on. The way that the builder did these, and it was probably faster for them to do, these houses were built in bulk really fast in a boom period. They did these push connect, so you just push it in the back and it holds. Usually, sometimes I just fixed one over there that had come loose over the years, or they hadn't connected it well enough. And so we're going to, if I had my cutters and a stripper, I would just cut these because I have enough length and strip some more off. But since I don't have a stripper, I'm gonna see if I can release this without, so I don't have to strip a new portion. But usually to release, you push in the back and then you pull out the wire, but I don't think this is small enough. But okay, let's start here. We have this copper, this unsheathed, I guess covered wire is your ground wire. And that's actually around the thread or around the screw. And then that one has wiggled itself loose. Normally you just push something in here and it will release what's holding that wire in there, but I think this is probably a little too big of a screwdriver to get as deep in there as I need to. All right, so again, if I had had strippers, I would just cut those out, but those didn't want to release. So what you should be able to do is just push in right there and release that, but it wasn't happening. Okay. So now we're gonna put our new outlet in. This is tamper resistant. When this one was installed many, many years ago, it was not code. Now all of our outlets have to be tamper resistant. So we are going to put a tamper resistant outlet in. The big thing with a tamper resistant outlet is mostly, see how it looks like there's like plastic in there? I think it's a child safety thing where you have to be pushing two things in at the same time. You can't just put one thing in this side, so sometimes it's a little tougher to plug something in. I actually don't really like these, but it's code, so it's what we're gonna do. All right, so you look at your outlet, and you have, on one side, you have two golden screws, and on one side, you have two silver or white screws. Black, hot, always goes to this gold side, and your white, your neutral, always goes to the white silver side, and then your ground always comes down here. Now, like we talked about, we have 2 sets of wires. The reason we only have 1 copper, but 2 of everything else is back here. You can see where the copper has been twisted together, goes into a nut, and then there's just 1 piece, so they've been joined, that will then ground to our outlet. Now these 2, I like to separate them the way I come off the outlet so I can just match it as long as it was wired properly to start. And so this was my top black, my bottom black, my top white, my bottom white. Now the big thing, if you didn't do this or you're not sure, or maybe your outlet wasn't wired right when you started, is you just want to put these 2 come from 1 set of wires, and these 2 come from the other set of wires. And you just, if you put the black from 1 wire on the top, then you want to put the white from that other wire on the top on the other side, and the black from the bottom, or your wire coming from somewhere else on the bottom, then you want to put your white on the bottom. So you just don't want to like crisscross them like that. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to put a curve in this, because I don't like to use the little holes in the back. I just don't feel like it's that secure of a grab. I'm gonna wrap for my, around my screw. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this and put it into a little curve. And I always like to curve into the way that when I tighten this, I'm gonna turn it. So for instance, when I tighten this, I'm gonna go righty-tighty, right? Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if I put it like this, when I tighten, it tries to pull it in. If it was the other way, if it was like this, when I went to tighten it, it almost pushes it out. So if you make it where as you tighten, it wraps more around in the clockwise direction, it just makes it a little bit easier and grabs a little better, I feel like. So I'm just getting these all ready to go into their little screw connections. And then as you can see, or as you already know, our ground is already ready. So it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm gonna do that. And then I like to, when I have a set of needle nose, squeeze that down. I don't always have one, and that's not necessary. And then we're going to tighten that screw. And then we're gonna do the same thing here. I don't think I have enough extra that I can really tighten that grate in there. I can't really get it in there. So that's okay. I don't have strippers to strip more off, but it's got a good grab. It's gonna go down in there when I squeeze it. So you can kind of see that little section sticking up. That's okay. The copper is still connecting, so it's still gonna make a connection, but if I'm able to, I'm gonna, and that really wouldn't hurt anything, so that's not something to worry about. But if I can just pinch that down a little bit, I'm gonna try to. Just so it's wrapped a little better. So see how I just kind of curved that a little bit more so it wasn't sticking up a crazy amount? See if I can still get it around there. There we go. It's gonna be a little bit better of a grab. Again, the other way, it's just a little messier. It wouldn't have made your outlet not work as long as it doesn't disconnect. Okay, so this black and this white came together. So I just wanted to double check, and then this white came with the bottom one. So I'm gonna put this one on the top, but so since I wanna turn my curve the way I'm tightening my screw, I'm actually gonna flip this over so when I tighten it grabs and pulls it in. Thing, put that on there. If you can squeeze it down, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that in there on that one. That's okay. Same thing here. I'm flipping this over. And this is a little bit messy, so I'm going to clean up my curve a little bit. And as I'm tightening it, it's actually pulling that curve of my wire in instead of pushing it out. I'm not having to fight anything. And then my ground, ground is always gonna go on the green. I'm gonna splinch that down, and then we're gonna tighten that one. So we have everything snug. So there's our black side. So these two, we have black on top, white on top, black on bottom, white on bottom. Always black on your brass, neutral or white on your silver, and then there's our ground. And they're connected together back there. You can't see it because it's kind of a dark video, but the two grounds are twisted together there, and then the pigtail comes out there. So now we're just gonna put it back in the wall. So you're gonna try to situate everything where you can get it all back in nice and orderly, or as much as you can. And then if you have a drill, if you remember when we took it off, the old ones, this is old house, flathead, but now I can use my Phillips and it's gonna be quicker. Get it nice and level. Don't want to tighten it so much that that bows in, but we want it snug so there's not a pull on it. And so then we're just gonna go ahead, and at this point, if you wanted to go turn it on and test it before you put this on, because if it's wrong, then you gotta do this again. But I'm comfortable with it, so I'm gonna put my new plate on. If you weren't, just do a quick test. The screwdriver won't latch in the back, so I'm not. And there you go. You went from that to that, much better.